It is our pleasure to talk to one of our favorite guys on planet Earth, and that is LSU head athletic trainer Jack Marucci, the man, the myth, the legend, dirty work behind the scenes, keeping guys mentally and physically fit. Marucci, what's going on?
Morning, guys. A little too much credit there, T.
No, not at all.
Slow that roll down a little bit.
Jacob can attest.
Yep.
The training room at LSU is unparalleled when it comes to recovering from injury. But like you said, even being forward thinking on the mental side of things, looking for the latest techniques physically. Y'all have always been the best. And the reason why I want to talk to you today, Jack, I'm sure you know about it. Because we've talked about this before, but we had Coach O on yesterday, and he was again talking about the character grading system that you came up with, and how before the season you went to him and you said, "Look, according to my character metrics, this is a really good team that we have. We should win a lot of games." I want you to take me back to the beginning. You have a very analytical mind. You love numbers. You try to quantify the unquantifiable. What made you like? What was the catalyst for developing this system that made you say, you know what, I want to see if there's any correlation here?
Well, I think when I first was looking at it, when Coach was talking about, first of all, he allows us to be so progressive even to this day, because he empowers the whole athletic, department to allow, if you have ideas, they're not shot down, and it stimulates growth. And I think that's the unique thing. And everybody in everybody's department, there's not a bad idea, I guess. And if you have the data to back it up, why not? I mean, it's the best analytics you can get. And analytics, sports science, or whatever you want to call it, it's kind of a garbage term because there's so many things involved, and you don't know what's what. But trying to find things that are attainable that you can apply and make sense. So I was actually looking at the different star rankings, and Jacob could attest to this, what kind of production comes out of all these different stars. I was looking at different states. So I was just collecting all this because the star system, I think, came out in 2001. And what we were looking at is just, let's look at the offensive linemen that we brought in. So we were just trying to analyze all the different players. Then, your gut always told you character is something that is related to success, but how can you quantify that? If you look at even Jacob's team in 2007, and I was using those as markers. I've been fortunate. I was at Florida State. We won here, obviously our third time since I've been here, but what was the makeup of those players? There had to be something different. And we know talent. People can identify talent, and that's what people do in football. They can see it. They know it. So let's move it further. Once we ID that talent, let's look at what's underneath the hood, I guess. How can they mentally process? What kind of character they have? And that's where Coach talks about so vehemently, because it's so important. And a lot of people, I always said, you get seduced by the talent. You can see a guy that runs fast, but then it takes you maybe overboard. But maybe they got some things on their checklist, coming out of high school. So when we were running the numbers, and I threw in the character category, all of a sudden, our best productive teams, 6 out of the 7, were the highest rated. Wow. And it correlated with production. It correlated with it. And the 6 out of the 7 all played or won a national championship. I said, here we go. There's something here. So me and Coach talked about this, and this is why, when he talks about it, he means it. One of the biggest meetings we had before we left for this break, it was all about character. We met for 3 hours on every guy. That's how much it means to him. He wanted all these other coaches to see this. So because we brought in some new coaches, obviously.
Yeah.
But this is what we look for in recruiting. Then think about this one. And Jacob begins would be one of those guys. Jefferson 2-star, Damian Lewis 0-star, Burrow 3.
Damn.
I think Moss was a 3. Jefferson's a 3. Clyde's a 3. Now you're talking player development. Coach has got a system now. It doesn't matter if you see something in that talent, and all those guys got drafted high almost.
Yeah.
Moss was hurt. Think about it. Cushenberry 3. This guy goes that high. That's so. Now you've created a program. It's like we were saying. Why wouldn't you come here? You have the resources. You've done everything right to bring a kid in. Also, that's the other key thing. He does such a good job IDing these guys, and our staff did such a good job. This team was built 3 years ago. This team wasn't just flipped up this past season. So that was the plan. And when you win like that, there's no better feeling. There's no better feeling than that. So if you go back and look at some of these teams that we won with, and it's Glenn Dorsey, Jacob Hester, Matt Flynn, Stelz. Look at the team makeup. I mean, isn't as hard as you think it is. So if you look at the top 3 rounds and the kids that we took, their GPA was very high as a cum. It was very high.
Huh.
We do a metrics. We worked with, I don't know, T-Bob. I don't think we started when you were here. It's a group called Sports Sense S2. It looks at mental processing. And Tommy Moffitt had a friend that I think it was back in Tennessee. Tommy goes, "Hey, we need to talk to this guy. He has a process to look at mental processing on athletes or on football players." So we were the first school to do it, and they have been very good. Now they have, I think, 8 teams in the NFL.
Damn.
But the guy's texting me and going, "Let me tell you something. You guys got up in the combine. You guys got, I think it was 9 or 10 on the elite processing category. What? Elite." And it was phenomenal. I mean, he goes, "You guys blew away every other school." He goes, "No wonder you breezed through the NCAA the way you did." That's what he texted me, and I kept the text. And it was it's a tribute of our coaches and Coach Orgeron on his vision. And those are the guys that you have to bring in, because when you're recruiting a kid, you have to do a little bit further. You got to talk to the people in that building.
Yeah.
It's just like an NFL scout. And, I think it's very important. And so by looking at what he's done, again, I think it's a very sustainable program by doing that. And you got to stick to the course. And sometimes, like I said, is a Lloyd Cushenberry the name that everyone talks about when we're signing these guys? No. But look what he's done for us. Look what Jefferson. Look what he's done for us. So I think, it's something that's more quantifiable. And again, like I said, these are things that have common patterns, and we can learn from the history to kind of predict a little bit of the future. So I'm fortunate because I've been around longer, and that's one thing where age can help you by just, observing these things and trying to quantify it. So, yeah.
And T-Bob, Jack does not leave any stone unturned. He'll even break it down as far as where a guy's from and the other guys that are from that area and what they've been like character-wise when they've been at LSU. Jack, that's one of the more impressive things that you told me is just how far y'all go and to find guys, where are they from, the past guys from that area, how are they at LSU as well?
Right, and Jacob, who's, wore the 18, and we've got a lot of 18s out of that area code. 318 has been a very good character.
Cesspool.
Let's go.
It's a cesspool.
Let's go, baby.
No, I'm just kidding. My mom's from 318.
It's been very productive. That is a true statement. And you can look in the state by looking at, if you take the history of the players, again, I'm basing everything off of 2001 where we pull all these guys. And the other unique thing I forgot to add was not only did the character match up to our highest producing players at LSU, and the NFL also. In the NFL also. It will correlate all the way through. The other thing was interesting on that Sports Sense. If you scored a score of 70 and above, and you only have a 29, maybe a 30% chance to sign a second contract in the NFL, that's how low the odds are. And we tell our players that. That's why it's important to get a degree. Here's your odds. But
Damn.
if you have a 70% score on there, your odds go up to 65%.
What?
Signing us, yes. That's how much the intelligence, the processing allows you to be more sustainable in the NFL. And I'll go back to Jacob. If I always tell these guys, think of guys who have played 6 years or greater that are on your roster. I guarantee you they were the more intelligent guy.
Yeah.
They probably had the better character on that team. It correlates. You can just knock these things out and look at it. And I think this is a model for a lot of organizations, just businesses. And, you know, I always say there's 3 things you want to look in hiring somebody. A is the character, be a good person, good heart, have a personality, can communicate, and keep an open mind. If you have those 3 things, you can go a long way. Because we can teach you the rest of the stuff, as I always say.
Yeah.
We'll teach you that stuff. That stuff is in your core. And I believe that's how you develop an organization.
Oh, man, Jack, this has been an absolute pleasure. LSU fans, I mean, the huddles love it. Like, if you're out there, you can see why this whole organization has been so successful. There's so many key members making key contributions at every single level. So this is the head LSU athletic trainer. He's the man. Jack, thank you so much for joining us this morning, man.
Marucci, appreciate it.
This is fascinating.
You got it, guys. You guys got it. Take care. Thank you.
Jack Marucci, head athletic trainer. That's and you know what else it is? I think it bears highlighting, which he did. It's a credit to the current regime that they are willing to be open-minded, willing to be progressive, and not just listen to the ideas, but then apply them. Like actually use that then to recruit.
Yes, and you know this. So many head coaches, so many football coaches in general have egos, and they think their way is the only way to do things. Coach O is as open to other ideas and other voices that he trusts more than anybody I've ever been around, and he trusts Jack Marucci. And Jack Marucci is a guy that has been at Florida State championship teams, been at LSU championship teams. I mean, he has been in the thick of it for a very long time. Yeah,
he was like, I mean, we won our third one since I've been here.
But something that Jack and Shelly and everybody over there, they're also somebody that help you transition. Like I know for me, when I was a freshman, Jack Marucci saved me at LSU because I could go talk to him about whatever was going on during my freshman season. I mean, Mama Shelley's the same way. So
well, and think about this, Jake, with the record number of draft picks, it's a little one of the side effects of watching those guys come off the board is this great celebration, but then it was also like, damn, like you got a lot of guys that you're replacing, right?
Yeah.
So having this kind of team building strategy, this forward thinking strategy, is going to be put to the test again, and we'll see the dividends that it pays and how quickly they could potentially rebuild.